Thank you all for being here. My name is Brittany Hernandez, and I'm a lawyer and the head of legal innovation at Gavel. I'm just delighted to welcome you to today's joint session with Gavel and Answering Legal on how old school law firm lead capture methods can work with new school document automation tools for increased scalability. I'm joined today by Nick Werker. Nick is the marketing director at Answering Legal, leveraging nearly a decade of marketing experience and adeptness for customer-centric messaging to progress the company's strategic campaigns. He's also the host of Answering Legal's Everything Except the Law podcast, where he interviews legal experts about legal marketing, public relations, legal tech, wellness, and more. Nick will speak first and share why old school lead capture is still relevant to law firms and how Answering Legal can help. Then I'm going to come back and talk about new school document automation for client engagement, document delivery, and legal products with Gavel. We'll then have 10 minutes at the end for audience questions. So feel free to post your questions in the chat as you think of them, and we'll pick them up after my section concludes. So after questions, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up and let you know about an exciting event coming up in August, hosted by Answering Legal. And then I will just turn the time over to Nick now. The floor is now yours.
So I'm going to start off by saying, Brittany, thank you so much. You're the best host of this ever. I'm so glad that I don't have to host. I'm so used to being in the driver's seat. And I don't know who wrote that nice bio about me, but it certainly wasn't anybody that I work with. But we want to talk today about Answering Legal. I like to call Answering Legal old school in the sense that really the product that we sort of sell to lawyers is this old school idea, right? This person-to-person connection. Yeah, sure, there's a bunch of technology that allows me to answer phones for different firms. We have a mobile app. We have tons of technology, integrations, everything that you could possibly want from your call center, right? But the crux of what we do is this person-to-person connection. So when I'm talking about old school lead capturing, I'm really talking about when a human representing your firm speaks with someone interested in hiring your firm. So that initial phone call, if it goes unanswered, that person really isn't going to interact with your voicemail. They're going to move on down Google or wherever else they got a lawyer's name from and call someone else on the list. We're also talking about the legal intake process your firm uses to transform prospective leads into paying clients. So I'm going to ask a rhetorical question that obviously gets answered right on your screen right here. Does old school lead capturing still matter? Of course it does. Potential clients might be finding your firm online, but the majority will still be calling into your office when they're ready to hire an attorney. There's actually data from Law Technology Today that shows that 35% of the time, phone calls from prospective clients are not even answered. So a lot of times, and I'm sure that everybody here, I'll get into this in a little bit, but a lot of times people are calling in with very sensitive issues. Like I got a friend a job in the call center here recently, and she's going to be working on July 4th. And she's like, what should I expect on July 4th? And I said, well, I think you're going to get a lot of calls about people getting arrested for DUI because the nature of it is, I mean, we're not naive here, right? Like a lot of people drink and drive on July 4th. It's really unfortunate, but that's why we have lawyers to defend, and that's why we have a criminal justice system to arrest. So expecting people with these urgent legal needs on July 4th or on Christmas or on any of these, I don't know, major days where normally you'd want to be, I don't know, not answering your phone or doing something else or appearing in court, expecting these people with these urgent needs to wait around for your call back is not really reasonable. Today's legal consumer, like it says, has so many other options. So what do? We provide new leads or new callers with a live, professional, and caring voice who actually is trained to answer for your specific law firm and follows your specific script to speak with that caller and make sure that that caller feels really cared for and really like that they actually spoke to a representative of your firm so that they want to move forward and hire you. They want to work with a firm that's going to communicate with them. So in case you don't think that this applies to you, which is totally fine, these are some signs that your lead capturing process might need some work. So you have these marketing campaigns, you pay all this money. I know we pay so much money to get all this marketing and advertising and Google ads and LSAs. But they're getting the right attention, and you meet with your marketers and you meet with your team and your SEO team and all these people, and they're saying all these results are so great. Oh, your visibility is up, your cost per click is down, your return on ads, all of these numbers, right, can mean all of these different things, but you aren't bringing in the right clients for your law firm. You aren't really connecting with those clients, and sometimes maybe you need to call them back, and you could just tell that this person is not really jiving with your law firm. Or you might end up needing to collect information from new leads more than once. If you're speaking to somebody on the phone and you have to ask them their name or the type of case they're calling about, or, I'll go back with the DUI. If you have to ask them again what county or municipality it happened in, they might get a little frustrated and feel like, how many times do I have to repeat myself before this guy is really going to be able to help me, before this firm is really going to be able to help me? Or if you are frequently performing new client intakes outside of your normal office hours. Now, what I mean by that is if you are answering the phone yourself outside of your normal office hours, that can really lead to burnout, which we're going to cover in a little bit. It's also not the most effective way of making sure that your marketing and advertising dollars are being taken care of.
So,
Brittany, you're like the best slide manager ever. You're just so on top of it. I really appreciate you.
No worries.
So I want to talk about how to increase the odds of connecting with these new leads. So like I mentioned before, answering these calls on a 24/7 basis, I mean, that just doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound like something I would want to do if I was a business owner. And in fact, I really don't. I got to be honest with you. I don't take unsolicited phone calls. I have the service on my phone, and if you want to get in touch with me, you have to go through a receptionist and basically state your case, who you are, why you're calling, what you're calling about, so on and so forth. I also want to say that if you don't have a proper plan in place to handle these leads, you have a higher I won't say opportunity, but you have a higher propensity to really mishandle the new lead opportunity. And what I mean by that is that if you don't have a structured, like, this is why secretaries are so effective, or like legal, like call answering professionals are so effective, is because they have a script. They follow the script every single time. They make sure that they're getting the correct information, and legal intake professionals are so valuable because they really take the time to get the right information and make sure that that person is qualified for your firm. So what I would recommend is, doesn't even have to be answering legal, but I would recommend that you put a plan in place to make sure that you know where your phone is going to ring at all 24 hours out of take any marble notebook, right? And say, from 9 to 5, I'm in my office. I don't do that much office work, so I don't mind answering my own phone. From 5 to 10 p.m., I'm going to forward my office phone to my cell phone. And from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. when I wake up, that's a crapshoot. I'm going to let all those calls go to my voicemail, unfortunately. But at least you know where that call is going to go, so that when you wake up in the morning, you might have a voicemail. Obviously, we are saying that the data says you won't, so I'm going to be optimistic and say that you do. So hiring a 24/7 virtual receptionist service can provide much needed peace of mind, because you can actually go to sleep and not have to worry about answering your phone in the middle of the night. You'll know that every first-time caller to your firm is being greeted by a highly trained receptionist specifically answering for your firm. So a brief introduction to answering legal. I'm so not a bragger. I'm so not good at boasting. I'm like, you can use whoever you want. But Answering Legal is a 24/7 receptionist service that exclusively works with law firms. And we've been serving the legal community for over a decade, which is crazy that I've been here for over a decade. That means I'm getting old. What we do is we have a highly trained virtual receptionist team that can perform legal intakes on the firm's behalf and send out detailed messages to the lawyers once the intake is complete. So what that really looks like from start to finish is, I'll use an example. Say someone is calling the law office of Edward Curley, and Edward, you practice personal injury. We would set up the service in your firm or your office that one of two things can happen. Either you can forward the calls directly to the service, to Answering Legal, or you can have that phone call ring a few times on your end. And if you don't answer it, instead of it going to voicemail, it actually automatically forwards over to answering legal. But we've already worked with you to establish how your greeting is, what legal intake questions you want, what information you want sent to you, where you want that information sent to, whether or not you want us to try and call you and get you on the phone after we've screened the call. Any number of those things, right? So we'll answer the law office of Edward Curley. How may we help you? The caller says they slipped and fell in a bank. Brittany, you slipped and fell in a bank and you broke your hip, and it's really unfortunate. And the wet floor sign wasn't out, and so you're looking to sue your bank. So we'll ask all of the pertinent questions pertaining to that case. We'll ask where you fell, the injury sustained, did you see a doctor, the wet floor sign. We'll get all of the details surrounding that and ask the specific questions that you need before we send that over to you. Now, we actually offer direct integrations with top legal softwares. So if you're using a CRM and you're worried, oh, I'm going to get this message and then I got to type it all into my CRM and do all the data entry myself, you actually don't have to. We have direct integrations. And that will be an exciting announcement later on, which I won't cover right now. So we're going to talk about streamlining your client intake process. When new leads call into your firm for the first time, you need to be ready to greet them and have an established client intake process to take them through, kind of like what I was talking about before. Answering Legal allows law firms to create customized legal intake scripts. So I have firms that'll call in that say, I don't know what my legal intake needs to be. So I'll ask them, what do you practice? And they'll say bankruptcy. And I'll say, okay, here's the standard list of intake questions that we have for bankruptcy. But I also have customers call in that practice lemon law, and they have specific, like, can I send you my form? Can I send you this? And you have to fill out these specific questions when a person calls in. And the answer is yes. So any questions that you want answered or any advice that you want, we can totally consult and build the perfect legal intake for your firm and train our people on it. So we do new customer training weekly. So if you get onboarded, your receptionists get trained and then they answer your phone calls. It doesn't go the other way around. They don't necessarily learn on the job. We try to train them before they handle the phone calls. A lot of people want to start quick, so that's totally fine too. But we can personalize the greetings so that this way, when somebody calls your office, we don't just say law office, or we don't answer hello, we answer law office of, who else is here? Joseph Pearl, how may we help you today? I had a guy once, this is a total aside, but every time we answered the phone call, I don't remember his name, but it was like, my name's Nick Werker. So he wanted the phone call to be Nick Werker, proud attorney, staunch representative. How may we help you? Like, we had to brand it, and we did. And that guy's probably still a customer. But combining a 24/7 answering service with a well thought out legal intake process will ensure that your firm is ready to impress prospective clients and capture new business at any hour. Turning your new lead into a client. So with Answering Legal in place, lawyers will always know what is happening next after a new lead reaches out to their practice. After our virtual receptionist team members finish speaking with your firm's new lead, they send you all the details recorded during the call through a message in the Answering Legal app. So you can have your messages sent to you in any number of ways. You can get an email. We actually, I think, just phased out fax. So you can't get a fax anymore. I'm sorry if you have a fax machine. We do SMS text, we do email, but we also developed a mobile app. Now, what the mobile app is better for your messages for is, we used to send messages through email and text, but like even your work email is just inundated with all of these different things. So you can never just read the messages that came in from your new clients or your existing clients. We developed this app so that only the messages that come in through Answering Legal end up in this one easy to read place where you can sort through new clients, existing clients. We even sort through different types of case matter. You can add your own tags and sort through your messages the way that you need to, so that you can have everything at your disposal, especially if you're not using a CRM that's super powerful. If you're just like a one-man band, which that's after my own heart. I was a startup kind of guy, so I totally get the hesitation. But law firms can now send outbound text through Answering Legal service. So this is really cool. We just released this. If you have like a retainer agreement or you want to send a reminder about an upcoming appointment, or I don't know what other kinds of things are listed here. Links to educational videos about how it works and how working with your firm is going to work. We can automatically send that text to people based on the call type. So different types of text messages at the conclusion of the call. Am I going too long? I didn't take stock. I think I'm doing good, right,
No,
Brittany?
you're good. You still have 3 minutes.
Cool. Okay. So how to get started with this old school lead capturing. So all law firms have the opportunity to try out Answering Legal for free. There's no contracts. There's no credit cards to put down unless you want to pay for the service when the trial is over. So if you're interested in learning more, we can book a discovery call with our team. So there's going to be a bunch of follow-up after this. Don't worry about it. Or you can just go to answeringlegal.com. But once new clients are on board, Answering Legal's 24/7 virtual receptionist team remains active in answering your calls. And it's really 24/7. It's really live. It's really people. There's no AI. There's no robot. There's nothing. If you call in right now, or if you call in on Christmas, you're going to get one of these receptionists. One of them might be my friend Amanda. Shout out Amanda. As we mentioned earlier, Answering Legal now directly integrates with many of today's top legal softwares. And before we dive into the next portion of this presentation, I'm just going to give you a quick example of how this works. I think it's only going to take 2 minutes. So Brittany, I apologize in advance, but we're going to use Clio Grow as an example. So our team can set up your phone lines to be integrated with your Clio Grow account, which just means that every message that we take from a new client is automatically going to be filled out. I'm going to let this person in because they're waiting. Is automatically going to be filled out and parsed in the right fields in your Clio Grow account so that you can just start that case matter right away without needing to do the tedious, data entry. Setting up the integration is super easy. There's literally an entire team of tech support people who set up integrations here. So if you're worried that it's going to be like implementation or it's going to cost money, it's all free. It's all included. All you do with Answering Legal is pay for minutes, and we do all of this extra stuff for you. I am going to stop talking and let my gracious host, Brittany, talk about the amazing tool Gavel, which constantly blows my mind. So if I'm sitting here with my mouth agape, you'll know that I just learned something new about Gavel.
Thank you so much. That was amazing, and also really cool for me to learn even more about Answering Legal service. And I really, really want to emphasize this idea that people are used to communicating with businesses in specific ways. And even though we're in a time where I won't even call like my best friend on the phone, I'll just text her. I think there's something that is a difference when something happened, like you did just get a DUI, or something happened to you, someone assaulted you, or whatever the case may be, that you want to have that human connection. So I just really think this is such a cool kind of combination of Answering Legal and document automation, or new school document automation, and how we can link these two things together. So I think this is just a really good combo. So what is Gavel and how does it kind of fit within this context? This is a document automation and legal productization platform that you can use. It's what's considered SaaS, or software as a service. And it's cloud-based, so you can do this from anywhere. So it's really easy to use. It's kind of in that no code, low code category that makes it to where you, as the lawyer, are able to, and as the subject matter expert, automate your own custom templates and turn them into not only internal, document automations, but also client-facing legal products where you could even put Stripe paywalls and integrate with things like DocuSign and so on. So it's really exciting. We're seeing a lot of people kind of start with the document automation piece and all the kind of internal stuff, and then kind of graduate to legal productization, which I'll show you some examples of in a minute. So in this context, when I usually present without something like an Answering Legal, I talk about how you might be able to use Gavel as an intake process, but that would be, without the phone. So this is a really good kind of point to say there are going to be some people who want to call right away. There are going to be some people who want to book a consultation right away. And then there's going to be people who need to be nurtured a little bit more. And I'll show you what that can look like in a different example. But from here, I'm going to pick up from this idea of the client has already gone through the process of calling in, speaking to a 24/7 receptionist through Answering Legal, for example. The information has been entered into whatever process or system that you've instructed. In our example, I'll pick up from the Clio Grow integration example, and then how you can use that information without having to retype anything at all, and use that into your retainer agreement, your engagement agreement. And then also from there, how you also wouldn't have to retype any information because you can reuse that data for delivery of whatever documents you need in order to prepare for their case or to deliver whatever you've agreed to. Let's say, for example, if you're in trust and estates, or if you're delivering a trust, or you're delivering a will or a HIPAA authorization or whatever else, how you can take the information that already came in from that initial contact point with name and address, email, phone number, and all the other details about that case, and just continuously reuse that data without having to do any manual entry. If it can be repeated, it can be automated. So that's something we always want to think about. Then I'll go into this piece around that idea of productization, how you can graduate from just kind of, standard internal document automation to really thinking about how consumers are driving demand for, having less expensive services, and how, we as lawyers can deliver this using legal tech like Gavel. So let's start with the engagement process. So if we think about this, what we can think about is the idea of, like I said, if you were someone who had instructed Answering Legal to connect the Clio Grow account and you want to be able to use this tool, what's really cool is that a lot of systems are starting to integrate with each other. So what that means is you don't have to re-enter any data. So let's say, for example, in this scenario, a client calls into Answering Legal, the information is entered here into Clio Grow. Clio Grow is automatically syncing with your Clio Manage account where you can put in your matter information. So here we have, for example, Mary Watson. This is in Clio Grow, where you can see that she's been hired as a client, and you can see your other leads here, for example. And when we look inside of Clio Manage, we can see things like how much we're billing for this. We can see different custom fields that we have associated with this particular person. We can see their email and their address, maybe their phone number or whatever else. So when we want to use Gavel, which looks like this from a platform perspective, to prepare something like a limited scope engagement agreement for a particular matter, if the information has already been entered in Clio Grow and put over into Clio Manage, for example, all I need to do is look for Mary's matter here, the one that we were looking at here, where I can see that the matter description is that we're looking at, this is a specially adopted housing grant application for $1,000, okay? So I can just say continue. And because all that information has flowed directly from the initial starting point of that intake point of putting the information into Clio Grow, for example, I only had to choose the matter and it's already populated everything in this document for me. I already have my header. The date is automatically pulled from today. I can see her name here, email here, her name in a different format here. I can see that I have the title of this engagement agreement here. If I wanted to, I could designate, having this section block only be the person who is the attorney that is in charge of that particular matter, for example, to make it more personalized. We can also see that we have Mary's name here, as well as the scope of the services and how much it's going to cost. So this is getting pulled directly from this section here, SH grant, as well as the amount. And then we can go forward even from here because we also have e-signature capabilities through DocuSign. I can just say submit for signing after I've taken a look and made sure that it is the way that I want it to be. And then that would get sent over to the client's email address on file. As you can see here, the person can then go through and review this document, sign it very quickly and easily. They can say sign here, adopt and sign, finish, and now it's going to get sent over automatically to the lawyer. And you can change how this works as well. But the point being that you're also going to be able to see the status of this particular envelope is that it is sent for signature and that it hasn't been completed yet. It'll be completed when the attorney who is supposed to work on this matter has signed it as well. So that's how we can start to see how linking information and linking systems together from the initial point of contact all the way from the first phone call, having that information entered into this section here, having that information flow directly into Gavel has made it to where I'm able to, in one section of this, just click that we want to have it for this matter, and it's going to populate all of that information that we already have about them. If you've already collected information about their name and address and email and all those different pieces, you should never have to type that again. So that's really going to save you and cut down on that admin time. Now, we talked about as that first piece, engagement. Now let's talk about delivery. So let's say in this scenario, we've worked with Mary on this other matter, but now we've upsold her and we want to also help her with preparing a power of attorney, for example. So what I can do is this is called the data manager. So in Gavel, you have this is called your dashboard, where you can see all of the different what are called workflows that you made. And that's where we have, like I showed you, different questions that you answer that might have logic attached to them, and it has some output at the end, which could be connected to Clio or DocuSign or anything else. Now, in this case, let's say, for example, I have already sent out that limited scope and engagement agreement, and we now want to deliver on what we said we would do. In this case, let's say we're assuming that this is for preparing a uniform statutory engagement agreement. I can look for that example here, and I can just say push. Now it's going to automatically enter all of the information that we have for the matter, which in this case is going to be for Mary, and then that's going to automatically pull things like this person here, which is going to be her agent in this example, for if we're designating in her case a single agent, but you could also designate more than one. We can say continue. So what's going to happen here, and what you're seeing, is that it's populating all of the information that we already have, and we're just being asked questions that we haven't collected before. So in this case, we've maybe had a meeting with her where she's said that she wants these things, and if these were recorded anywhere or they were entered somewhere that we can reuse, then we wouldn't have to even do this part. But in this case, let's say that I'm preparing it and shows you still how quickly you can do this. And this is an example of question logic. So as I mentioned, you're able to choose different answers and have assigned different logic around how these show or hide. And you can have these default answers as well to make it even faster. So let's say, for example, in this case, she wants to designate one single agent, but she also wants to be able to limit those powers to, let's say, these ones and not these ones. So you can do that here. We can also instruct any special instructions, whether we want this power of attorney to continue, if she becomes incapacitated, yes or no. We can also list any special instructions here as well. And then when we continue, we'll be able to see a preview of this before we have this go on to its final destination, which could be automatically emailing it to the client, where they are, set up to have a signing meeting with a notary or whatever else. But what we can see is that we didn't have to re-enter anything like this. And there's a lot of logic that's actually going on behind the scenes in this section. And what we're going to see actually is, I'll show you what it looks like when this document is what's called tagged by myself. I did this one myself. So essentially what happens is you can use something called the document tagger, which is a Word add-in. And what we'll do is you'll be able to see that when you create a new workflow, what happens is you're able to start with documents if you want to use our Gen AI feature, where you just take your template, drop it into the system. It's going to pull out all the different questions that might repeat. But you could also do this with just questions and starting from scratch. And then I'm going to just say like AL test 1, for example, and you could give this a better name. But the idea being that you say new workflow, it's going to create this and take you over to what's called the Gavel editor. And that's going to make it to where all you need to do in order to start creating this yourself is, let's say, change the name. Maybe we'll change this to something like, let's just use POA, for example. And then we can say add question. And then from add question, what we would do is look at our actual template. In this case, let's say this is the one that you would start from, where it hasn't been tagged yet. And you're starting to take a look at what are the different things that I need to be aware of from a logic standpoint. So for example, and like what information needs to be entered, right? We need things like the principal's name and address, the name and address of the person appointed, and if they want more than one. So that's a point that we need to pay attention to here. So they can designate one agent, or they can designate more than one agent. So we can make that a question, right? do you want to, this could be like, do you want to designate, you can say like a single select, for example. So there's different question types, and we can give it a question title that says something like would the client like to designate a single agent or multiple agents? Multiple agents, right? And then we can give it what's called a variable name. And then we can say like agents, single, or multiple. And you get to decide what this is, because this is going to help you to refer to this question in different places. So we can give it some choices. We could say single and multiple, right? And then what we can do, because we now have established this initial starting point, is we can add another page. And if we wanted to designate a single agent, we can have a page that just has the single agent information, right? Which would be something like their name, like agent name. And then we could say like single agent name, for example, and so on. And then what you would do is say, I want to add some logic to this. So you just say edit page logic, show this page if the variable that we created for power of attorney, which is agent, single, or multiple. So show if that variable is answered single, right? Same thing for multiple, and you can add things like what are called repeating item questions, where you don't know the answer in advance, how many of a thing they're going to be, right? So then what you would do is you go into your document tagger when you're ready, you've completed filling this out, you've finished, putting all your questions on there. So what you'll do is you come into here, and I'm just going to sign into a different one here, for example. And you can say, you can find the one that you want, which in this case is this one here. This is your workflow that you're choosing from. Now we can start adding different variables and logic. For example, if I was going to put the name, and obviously I would do all of this, I'm going to show you really quick. So if I was going to insert the single agent's name, I would just say simple variables, find this from the dropdown, and find the one that says single agent name. And then I can make this standard, uppercase, first letter capital, or whatever else. Let's say I wanted it to be uppercase in this case. I can say insert variable, and it's going to do that code for me. I don't have to know how to write this. I don't have to know the syntax or have to type it in manually. It's going to do that for me automatically. Now, another cool thing that's going to happen is I can add logic to this by saying, show this phrase or this section when agents single or multiple is, in this case, single. And I can just say, insert this condition. If I wanted to add additional conditions, I could say something like, and single agent name is not blank, or whatever the case may be. You can stack logic on top of each other, and you don't have to know about the percentage signs or how many of the brackets you need, or to put this end if. You don't have to know that. All you need to know is when you want something to show up, and that you can do that. So then what you would do is you would take that document, attach it to here, and then you'd be able to run it similar to how I showed you. Now, my time is almost up, so what I want to do now is just to quickly show you what this would look like when it's all polished and in the form of, let's say, a legal product, because I already kind of showed you that internal document automation piece where you would be able to prepare an engagement agreement, prepare a uniform statutory power of attorney, for example. And so let's say, for example, that you are an expert in veteran law, and we are going into that piece of wanting to prepare whether we want to determine whether somebody might be eligible for a particular type of grant. So in this particular case, I have a blog on my website where the person can see if they are eligible for the grant. Now, this can serve a couple of different purposes at the same time. In this case, this can serve as lead qualification, lead generation. And so what we're saying is we're attracting people to our website because they're able to find out very quickly that they may or may not be eligible. And then they're also able to determine very quickly for us whether they might be a good person to work with. Because, for example, if they say none of the above in this case, because of that logic piece that we have, they're going to be able to find out very quickly that they're actually likely not qualified. So they can see their information here, and we say, based on your answers, you may not be eligible. These are the reasons why and how you might be eligible. So maybe something else would be better for them. Now, if they answer something different, we're able to see that they can continue, and they're going to have a different page shown to them by page logic, right? Whether they are using the money for this reason or if they own or not don't own their home. If they continue, they're going to see a different result. In this case, they're going to see that they likely are eligible. We'd love to meet with you. You can book your initial consultation here. And if we were going to offer this as just a product, like that somebody could buy it, you could actually just make it to where the person has a paywall that they can like sign into an account, for example, and then they can just have a paywall that shows for them where they can put in their information and buy that same workflow, but you have designated that you want it to be something that is paid. Okay, so let me just quickly show one last slide here, which is going to be on emerging opportunities around that, where you can see people who are in different sectors doing different things using this type of tool around automation, just turning those into legal products, such as Hello Divorce, who's actually been acting a lot more like a legal tech startup in a way, even though they are a law firm that created a separate entity outside of the law firm called Hello Divorce, where they offer DIY divorce packages. And this was really generated from the demand of the community to provide more cost-effective human-centered services. But they weren't able to do that in a cost-effective way just through their law firm. So once they were able to master being as efficient as they possibly could in the law firm, they were also able to have this sort of also a separate entity that is still generating a lot of revenue, and in this case, also getting venture capital. So I'd love to pause here and just have a few minutes for questions. We have about, let's say, 6 minutes or so for questions. So if anyone had anything in the chat or wants to unmute and just ask live, that's fine as well. And if not, that's completely fine. You're welcome to also connect with myself or Nick offline to kind of chat through this as well. I know we kind of went through a lot, but what I'll do then, if you don't have any questions, is I'll just kind of start wrapping us up, unless Nick, you have any comments you want to add here.
No, Gavel is just so cool. I'm just mind blown at everything you just showed me.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really fun as well. I mean, I actually ended up doing it as a job. So I'm a lawyer as well. And, you know, after law school, I did a lot of different things. But one of the things that I got to do was actually to help automate other lawyers' documents, which is really cool. Thanks, Dana and Joe. I appreciate you guys in the chat kind of sharing your thoughts there as well. So there's a couple people on the call who are, you know, users of Gavel. So you can also connect with them and ask them how they like it. So I'd love to just kind of wrap us up with a few announcements. And the first is that you can join us on August 13th at 1:30, where I will be hosting a discussion called How Automation Leads to Greater Customer Satisfaction. And this is going to be featuring a couple of special guest panelists, including Ali Ott, Colin Levy, and Dawn Dethought during Answering Legal's Law Firm Summer Reboot Camp event, which is going to be super exciting. It's also free. So if you'd like to join us for that, you can go to answeringlegal.com/Summer Reboot Camp 2024. Nick, do you have anything else you want to add about that?
I'm just super excited and honored that we get to do this and have Gavel host their own panel. Just excited to watch you guys grow, watch the event grow, and learn more about document automation. I candidly got a side text from Joe while this was going on that we need to use this in our content.
Absolutely.
So we're going to start using Gavel as well. I mean, it's such a great platform, and it opens up so many doors for law firms out there to really start competing with bigger data law firms. So I love it.
I appreciate that. And obviously, you know, we're big fans of yours as well. So we appreciate the collaboration. And you can, you know, like Nick mentioned, for the way that Answering Legal's kind of cost structure works, you said you pay for minutes, correct? So you could start for free, and then when you start using minutes, is that right?
So everybody gets a free trial of Answering Legal, no matter what. If you wanted to pay me any money up front, you physically cannot. We just measure the amount of minutes that you use during a 2-week or 400-minute free trial.
Okay.
and offer you a flat rate moving forward. That's it.
Amazing. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And then for Gavel, you can start a free 7-day trial at gavel.io. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. We have our information here on this slide. So please don't be shy to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions and meet one-to-one. We also have an amazing customer support team or customer success team who's really invested in making sure that you know exactly how to use the platform, because I went over like how to build a little bit, but they can really sit down with you, look at your documents, and help you on a strategy call on how exactly this could work and how you can think about your tech ecosystem, how you connect, for example, the services that you're using for intake with answering legal, for example, whether or not you use some intermediary service. And then also, Nick, you wanted to mention something about possible integrations.
So my team is actually inside of the API documentation for Gavel, and we're working on direct integration with them. We're super excited to be working with Gavel, just because it's so powerful, all the things that you could do inside that platform rather than just manage a case. You can really like actually work out of Gavel,
Yeah.
and we're super excited to be involved.
I appreciate that. Yeah, sounds good. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll let everyone know kind of when that goes. So thank you all for being here and for spending the time. We're happy to kind of be with you. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Nick, I think you're a host, so you can end the meeting for all of us.
Guys, thank you so much. Brittany,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thanks, Nick.
Such a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Joe, as well. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.